So I just literally 3 minutes ago, the credits started rolling on Justice League. I finally got around to watching it. Um, I guess this is, I mean, not that it matters what we call it, but this is probably more of a impressions and thoughts than a review because I'm honestly I'm not putting that much. I haven't done a lot of prep. This is just my immediate response after having just seen it over the course of a couple of days. Here's what I'll tell you. I mean, uh, it's not, in a lot of ways, it's not good as a story for the most part, right? I mean, the fact that it's taken me multiple days to watch it, and the fact that there were even points tonight when I think I was at a point where Clark, there's spoilers all over this, just so you know, starting now, where Clark had come back to life and he was in the field with his with Lois and his mom drove up, and I was just like, okay, maybe I'll just do the impressions now. I've already been watching for 3 hours. If that's not long enough to make impressions, and it's not that I didn't like it. It's that the story, like the narrative structure of this movie, is not very good. It's episodic, which is a nice way they broke it up. But ultimately, whether they would have broken it up into chapters or not, there seems to be this lacking forward momentum that moves the story along. And episodics can do that. They can move the story. I don't know what you thought, but WandaVision was episodic, incredibly episodic, almost literally. Well, it was literally, and then meta literally. It doesn't matter. The point is, it was very episodic, but you couldn't wait if you were into the show for the next episode because there was still this narrative that was pulling you along, these questions that you wanted answered. Justice League, and well, yeah, because I've already seen it, the Joss Whedon version. It's not like I didn't know Superman was coming back, but it's not so much that, it's that there's just not, maybe it's the bad guys, but there's nothing that compelling about Steppenwolf and Darkseid taking over the world. It's just another tropey bad guy. Sure, he had some, he was really strong and he had, they were cool looking. I thought Desaad looked amazing. But as a story, it wasn't like even though the stakes were incredibly high, it was the end of the world. I didn't really care about it, in terms of what's going to happen. So, and I'm saying all this because I loved this movie. This movie, I don't know what the legacy of this film will be. As of I think yesterday or 2 days ago, the head of Warner Brothers came out and said, we're not really moving forward with Zack Snyder's take on the Justice League, even though obviously the epilogue, which was awesome, sets up all this cool stuff. I don't know. I mean, the fact that this movie exists is a miracle that should be celebrated. Not just the whole fan thing, but just the fact that, when you get the money and the support to play with all of these amazing toys, whether those toys are actors or effects or amazing, sets or marketing, that doesn't come around all that often. When you get the ability to play with this is almost like the movie version of Death Stranding, right? When you get the ability to play with the toys, aka the money, and then you get the freedom to pretty much clearly, within reason, do whatever the fuck you want to do, I think you end up with something like the Justice League, which is flawed. I can't imagine if you don't love these characters already, if you don't go in preloaded with an absolute just worship of superheroes in general and the DC canon specifically. I'm thinking about my ex-wife who we watch movies with all the time, and I'm thinking about my kids. I think they'd be bored of this after 30 minutes. There's nothing about this that is grounding there's the Victor story, the Cyborg story, the Superman story, right? I mean, so those work pretty well. Certainly Superman's story works pretty well for the most part. But it's so long and so bloated that I think unless you're already in because you love this stuff, it probably is like watching a really expensive WrestleMania where you're like, wait, why does Asuka not like, or why does Sasha Banks not like Bayley anymore? I don't understand. It's too in the weeds for that. So I can see Warner Brothers going, you know what, this is great, but we need Shazam. We need Wonder Woman #1, not 84. We have to mainstream this. We have to Marvel this. I think that's where they're going. We'll see what happens with Black Adam, but that said, what a miracle this exists. So here's what I'll say about this movie that I adore. A lot of times when people make long epics, it's like someone like, they're more grown up, right? It's like you've got Nolan doing one, or Scorsese doing The Irishman. I mean, they're smart, they're well read. They understand the value of literature and, literary devices and filmic language. There's an intelligence, there's an adult driving the car. Justice League feels like there's like a 15-year-old kid that you've given your credit card to, your black Amex, there's no fucking limit, and you're like, go to Vegas for the weekend, see what kind of trouble you can get into. And that doesn't mean it's just sloppy and undisciplined all over the place. I'm not giving Snyder a backhanded compliment. I love that about this movie. I love the fact that Warner Brothers gave this guy that level of freedom to just go fucking wild. And so the movie is uneven. The movie has plot problems, in my opinion. The movie is really inconsistent with how it treats characters. On one hand, you've got this great Superman story with his family and Lois and all that. And you've got Victor, which I don't think plays as strongly, but it's great. And then on the other hand, you've got these cardboard characters like Wonder Woman and Aquaman and Batman, who are just kind of like, it's like they almost live in the same universe. They're so different in terms of how some are more fleshed out than others. But and that's probably why it takes so long to get through it, because it's not a good movie, but it is a great world to visit. It is it is superhero porn. It fetishizes, not sexually, but it fetishizes heroes and comic books and this fantasy world. And I loved it. I loved all the slow motion. I loved, the connection between the characters. I love getting to know Barry Allen, the whole pet store scene. And I'm assuming that was Iris West that he saved from the car crash was fantastic. I don't remember at this point. I only saw the Whedon version once at home ages ago. And so I don't remember what was in what. But I certainly walk away from this with a very similar sense to when you walk out of a movie that you've seen, that you've loved, that's going to stick with you. That epilogue was just, come on, you guys. I'm not a hyperbolic guy, or I try not to be, but even when I'm about to talk about it, I'm getting a little emotional about it. Because when you see, look, I don't know if you can see, I show you guys all the time my comics, and there's tons of comics in my closet. I grew up with these characters. Now, I was more of a Marvel guy, but I still love DC. It's only when I've gotten older that I've begun to appreciate DC equally with Marvel. But I still loved these characters growing up. And to see them, and I know they're fantasy characters, and I know I'm almost 50 years old, but in some ways, to be almost 50, to be clearly aged out of this, and to still go, it's kind of like what Russell Crowe's character playing Kal-El's dad on Krypton was talking about. He's like, you will show them the best that they can be. You will show humanity, their greatness, and they'll stumble, but you will lead them. And it's just, these characters I love. They inspire me. And to see them presented to the world and presented on the screen with such unbridled enthusiasm and such reverence and love. And I get it. It's, the slow motion and the lighting and it's, the religious allegories and all. I get it. It's over the top. But if you come in predisposed to love this stuff, and I love this stuff, I'm not going to be buried. If I was going to be buried, though, I am going to be cremated. And I'm going to be cremated with a bunch of my favorite comics, because they are one of the handful of things in my life that feel so connected to my spirit, whether a spirit's a real thing or just a trick of the conscious mind, which is a trick of neurons and whatnot. I don't know and I don't care. But to see these guys like this makes my soul very happy. And I don't think we'll see this again this way. I can't imagine this would play brilliantly for anybody who isn't, drinking from this well already. This is not a mainstream Marvel, anybody can watch and go, oh, Robert Downey Jr., he's charismatic and funny. He happens to be Iron Man. He happens to be in a superhero movie, but this is fun. This is not that. This is an embrace of the very essence, I think, of what makes superheroes great. The sacrifice and the heroics and the silliness, and the silliness that's played straight. I don't see the silliness and laugh at it ironically, like, oh, that's so dumb. I'm like, no, my inner kid is very much alive and well, thank you. And that kid connects with this stuff. So I loved it. I still don't get, I've never gotten, I was an English major and we talked about, the Christ figure and all that. I still don't get the value when writers make someone a Christ figure. It's like, okay, I get it. Superman, you're saying he's like Christ, but I don't have a problem with that, but so what? I mean, maybe if you're raised Catholic and you have this massive reverence for Jesus, but for me, I'm like, okay, so yes, there's similarities between him and he's going to lead people. All that's great, but I don't need that to make Superman richer. Superman is just a dynamite character that people just don't understand and don't like because they're so fucking cynical. Superman is just the best of what we can be, and I love that about this character. I will say I think Henry Cavill did a great job in this movie. I haven't really liked him as Superman before, but he was great. All of these characters were great. I've always wanted to have the normal Flash, not the normal, but the CW Flash. But seeing this guy, whatever Ezekiel or whatever his name is, awesome. Can't wait for the Flash movie. So I'm in. I love this. This was great. I don't know if I'll watch it again. I might. I know this sounds crazy. I had a death in the family last week. It had been a long time coming. I'm not like, I'm not that there'd be a problem if I was super sad, but my point is it's on my mind, deathbeds, because we visited her on her deathbed for a while. If this was the last movie I saw, if I get lucky and I get to go out 93 years old like she did, and they're like, Mr. Jaffe, what movie do you want to put on before you pass away or whatever? I'd like, show me this. They're like, you don't want a Marvel movie? I'm like, well, I love the Marvel movies, but this is a connection to my soul. And it makes me very happy. I just loved it. I loved it so much. I don't think I'll watch it again for a very long time, but I loved it. And goddamn, Affleck should keep playing Batman. He was fucking great. Hope you're well. See you later. Bye.